Jacob comes to Laban, what do you do? We can't marry off the younger sister before the older sister. It's immoral. By the way, that's how you know when you're dealing with a crook in business. When you come out of the conversation feeling guilty. Can I marry Rachel? Sure, another 7 years of work you can marry Rachel. He marries Leah, he marries Rachel. He loves Rachel more than Leah. But you know what the interesting thing is? Rachel dies very young. Who does Jacob live most of his life with? Leah. Who is Jacob buried with? Who is Jacob buried with in Hebron in Israel? With Leah or Rachel? With Leah. Rachel is buried in Bethlehem. Leah and Jacob are buried in Ma'arat HaMachpelah, the cave of the Machpelah in the city of Hebron, the holy city of Hebron. Jacob and Leah for 3,600 years are interred together, not Jacob and Rachel. Why, my dear friends? And why is it that at every Jewish wedding, the groom veils the bride? Badekin. Why does he veil the bride? Because Leah was veiled. That's why Jacob didn't see her. So my question to you, my dear friends, is, should the custom not be that every groom should unveil the bride? Anplecken. Reveal the face of the bride so you can make sure it's the right one. It's not Queen Elizabeth and it's not Hillary Clinton. Fine people, but you don't want to be married. And yet the groom covers the face. What's the significance? What's the meaning of this? Here we have one of the great secrets of Kabbalah and Hasidic idea in marriage and relationships. And it goes like this. Rachel, is the beautiful woman. Leah, the Bible says, did not have the attractive appeal, the romance, the beauty, the comely components of Rachel. She did not. Eine Leah Rakot, her eyes were poor, her eyes were weak. She was very different than Rachel. Rachel was light. Rachel is 238 in numerology, the same numerology like the words Vayihi Or, and there was light. Rachel was the life of the party, the light of the party. She was a person filled with light and optimism and hope. She made people feel comfortable because she was comfortable with herself. Do you know what Rachel means? The word Rachel. Anybody knows Hebrew? Rachel, right, a ewe, a sheep. Rachel had the color, the calmness, the luminescence of the calm sheep. Rachel is a sheep. What does Leah mean in Hebrew? Leah means exhaustion. Leah was a struggling soul. She was exhausted from her own struggles. Leah had to deal with skeletons and demons. Leah struggled to find her place in the world. Leah was a fighter and she was exhausted from the fight. So every person has a Rachel and a Leah. There are components of your life that are very beautiful and attractive. It's what you write in your resume. It's what you project at receptions. But then there are the elements in every person's life that we have to struggle with. It may be guilt or shame or animosity or an inferiority complex or pain or insecurity or lack of confidence or different elements that we deal with, envy, jealousy, guilt. We both have two components in us. So the Bible is telling us something very powerful. When you get married, you think you're marrying Rachel. But sooner or later, you're bound to discover that you ended up with Leah. It works both ways. The wife towards the husband and the husband towards the wife. Rachel is the woman you dream about. Leah is the woman you end up with. Rachel is the husband you dream about. Leah represents the husband you end up with. People have dreams of what marriage is. Rachel, my perfect wife, my perfect husband. But in reality, the Torah says, if you're not ready to marry Leah, you're not ready for marriage. Why does he veil the bride? Because he's telling her, I am committed to love not only the part of you that I see, but also the part of you that I don't see now. It's going to emerge only later. I am committed to love not only the Rachel, but also the Leah. I'm committed to love the real person. And here is the secret. It turns out that it's the Leah elements of your spouse that were always meant for you. But if at the first date you would have met Leah, you know what you would have said? Bye-bye, have a good life. So the first date, God lets you see Rachel. But it's the Leah elements of your spouse that were meant for you, because the Leah elements of your spouse challenge you to become the person you're capable of becoming. They challenge you to transcend your ego. They challenge me to become larger than myself and create space for another person. To love Rachel means to love myself. To love Rachel means to love the spouse that I see as a continuum of my ego. To love Leah means to love somebody else. It's easy to love myself. Nietzsche said, we don't love people, we love our version of them. Rachel is my version of my spouse. Leah is my real spouse. Rachel means you take yourself seriously. Leah means you take somebody else seriously. So I am lecturing in California about relationships. A woman raises her hand and says, Rabbi Jacobson, I want to tell you a story. I have been married for 18 years, and recently we had major problems. So we went to marriage counseling for 4 years. I say, no. She says at the end, the counselor gave us a device that was unbelievable. I say, share it with us. She said, I'm going to share it with you. It's the best advice ever given. And Rabbi, you lecture around the world, take this advice and give it to everybody, and you don't have to pay me copyright, it's a gift. I'm getting very excited. What's the advice? She says, the reason I came to therapy was I felt that my husband doesn't really respect me as a person. It's all about his mood. When he's in the mood, I have to be ready. When he's in the mood, I have to be there. I'm almost like an object sometimes. He doesn't respect my space. 4 years in therapy. And what was the final solution? The final conclusion, the therapist tells my husband, if you want to get divorced, get divorced. If you want to stay married, this is the deal. The deal is, every month, 2 weeks, you lay your hands off, and then after 2 weeks, you'll appreciate, you'll respect, you'll value your wife with a new enthusiasm. And the woman says, Rabbi Jacobson, my husband started to do it, and our marriage is unbelievable. Take this advice and give it to everybody. I say, Nevitzin, I'm very happy to hear this advice, but come over here. And I say, here, let me open you a book that was written 3,320 years ago, the book of Leviticus. Here, it says right here. She says, what does it say? I said, it says exactly what you said in original Hebrew. She says, nah, that's for Orthodox Jews. I said, in the Torah it doesn't say anywhere Orthodox. And that Moses wasn't Orthodox. The Torah is for Jews. And then I realized the tragedy of today. She didn't even know that this treasure. I told her, how much did the 4 years of therapy cost? She said, a lot of money. I said, how much? She said, $21,000. I said, you could have given it to me. You could have given it to the Chabad house where I was lecturing in Los Angeles, in California. Here it is, right here in the Chumash. But if it says in Torah, your therapist said it, wow! Moses was also an intelligent guy. God also knows a little bit about sexuality. A little bit. He created it. The one who created the computer, when he writes a manual for the computer, you know the manual, the guy who wrote the manual knows how the computer works. He knows how sexuality works. He knows how intimacy works. He knows how marriage works.